It's Monday, October 16th, and you know what that means. Nothing of any real significance. It's time for the 359 podcast. However, I'm BVG, and today we have Roger Cheng and Alfred. And we are here to instill fear in everybody.
Yeah,
Happy Monday.
There
We're all
actually is
screwed.
something big happening. It's
Besides
KRACK.
being episode 299 of the 359
That's
podcast.
not huge. Tomorrow's huge. But no, we're talking about KRACK. We're gonna be talking about KRACK.
My favorite.
Yeah, no, not that kind.
Yeah, Silicon Valley's got a real problem with crack.
That's true. We'll be talking about the latest Wi-Fi vulnerability. Alfred, our security expert, will break it all down for you. We're also going to talk about 5G if we have enough time. I don't know. We're gonna spend a lot of time on KRACK.
Maybe stop by the Bed Bath Beyond.
Just so everyone knows, this is crack with a K.
With a K.
It's not the drug.
It's all capitalized, so it's different.
Yeah.
So anyways, as always, if you have any questions, and I'm sure you will, leave them in the comment section. Brian will pick out the best, and we will get to them in 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
From 3, 2...
Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Alfred Ing.
So we're talking about KRACK. No, not the drug. It's short for Key Reinstallation Attack, and chances are your Wi-Fi hotspot is vulnerable. Alfred, you want to break this down for us?
Yeah, so the research was released earlier this morning. It's a WPA2 flaw. It's a type of security for Wi-Fi. This comes when you through a four-way handshake system that this Wi-Fi system uses. In the third step, usually it sends the password over and it does this handshake through like 4 different authenticators and it comes back to your device. In this one, it can continuously inject like a false password or, just essentially getting rid of the encryption port on the third step, the third part of the handshake.
Okay.
And then at that point, it allows any attacker to basically look at your network traffic, hijack your connections, and inject content onto basically your Wi-Fi stream. So they can put like a link that you didn't click on into your browser or anything like that. It should be important to note that they need to be nearby for this to happen. But considering the range of any Wi-Fi connection, you can be like down the block and still attack somebody over using this KRACK vulnerability. A lot of the advice that I've been seeing so far is even though it can decrypt traffic from your network to your device, it can't decrypt stuff on secured websites. So if you're going on HTTPS websites, which is the majority of the internet, your connections could still be secure, but the point is they can still inject content into your stream anyway.
So, I mean, look, just the idea that someone can kind of sneak in there through your Wi-Fi connection is not great. I mean, are we basically screwed? Because a lot of these hotspots all use WPA2, so what is the fix for this? Or is there a fix?
Yeah, WPA2 is very common. Like you said, there's a lot of devices that do use it. A lot of security researchers have already said, stop using WPA2. You know what else I've heard is really popular lately? Ethernet cables. Making a big comeback.
I mean, look, let's face it. A lot of our devices are wireless or mobile. That's not really practical. Barring the Ethernet solution, is there something we can do to make sure that our devices are patched up, or what's the fix?
A lot of companies have already issued patches for this after the announcement. So companies had known about this for about 3 months or so, but they were working on a fix towards it before it was made public knowledge. So patch your systems as soon as possible. The issue is though, for a lot of IoT devices, they don't get patches frequently. They don't get that many updates. So if you have like a smart doorbell that you don't want to get patched or anything, maybe consider getting like a normal doorbell instead. It's a lot of like smart home objects that are particularly vulnerable to this.
All right, next up, we wanted to talk a little bit about 5G. Stephen Shanklin has a nice feature on 5G. It seems like it's coming sooner than we thought. It was projected initially as 2020. We've talked to folks who say that really the first half of 2019, you might actually start to see 5G phones. And that's kind of a surprise because most people thought that 5G would show up in your home as sort of a fixed broadband connection or with Internet of Things type devices. But phones might actually get it. So that the key benefit for a phone is if you're in a crowded area, like a baseball game or whatever, usually your connection sucks. With 5G, you've got a whole bunch of capacity. So your unlimited data plan will still go super fast, even if you're in that crowded room.
The other benefit of this would be you would not be affected by this KRACK outbreak.
Nice segue.
Because LTE has actually had really good security for the time that it's been out. Nobody's really been able to hijack like an LTE network or anything like that. So in that sense of it, that's another thing you can do if you have the luxury of being on LTE all the time. Just don't use your Wi-Fi on your mobile devices or run it off of LTE if you can afford to. But with 5G, that would definitely make it much easier.
Yep. All right. For more of these stories and more, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Alfred.
Thanks for listening.
I have got a lot of work to do in the chat. Will you guys vamp for a while? It's really
Vamp,
blowing up
vamp,
today,
vamp.
and it's awesome. Thanks everybody for your great comments. I'm going to try to filter through these so that we can actually address some of the questions because I know everybody's
this is
really
huge.
concerned with
Going
this.
back to KRACK, I just like saying that.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to smart home devices and IoT devices. We talked a little bit about this before the podcast began. Like, does this mean that I should be trusting more, I guess, name brand smart home makers, or is everyone basically
yeah,
screwed?
I mean, they have more of a liability to update because they're name brand. There's a difference between
like going on Amazon and
Nest
buying that.
doesn't update versus like there's a the scrutiny behind no name whatever. I don't want to like
Right. Some no name Amazon, like something
if they
you
don't
find on
update,
Amazon.
people are okay. All of 5 people are affected by this, but if
Right.
Nest doesn't update, then it's okay. This is an entire ecosystem of IoT devices that are going to be mismanaged on this.
So it does sort of reinforce the idea, like when you're buying smart home stuff, you do have to shop smartly. You have to be a little bit more choosy about what kinds of equipment, who you're buying from.
I mean, the other issue, the bigger issue that I'm looking at is, Wi-Fi enabled like ATMs and cash registers and everything like that, because that a lot of these vulnerabilities, when it comes to something like a store, like, I don't know, Whole Foods or Pizza Hut or Target, all of which were breached because of bad, security on their end, on their hardware. That's like, I think where the biggest issue is, when these like major companies, like these breaches happen and you go there and you buy your quinoa or something, and next thing you know, your like credit card information is stolen because of a vulnerability like this.
Because that terminal is also using WPA2.
Yeah.
All right. Got it.
That's how most of these breaches happen.
Got it. So there you go. Like I think that's the bigger concern with this one is, as you were saying, like it's not just your home, it's not just your own personal products or devices. It is.
That's the thing. Like, think about how many places use WPA2.
Right.
I was taking the train into work today, and on the MTA they have like the Wi-Fi
free
on the
Wi-Fi,
subway and stuff, and like I'm not using that. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So yeah, usually when issues like this happen, you should obviously take a look at your own devices first, but then kind of look around you at like look at your local Starbucks with the Wi-Fi that they use,
Right.
and any cafe that you go to, the airport. It's things like you have to be considering, like, are they updating?
So what about your home Wi-Fi? Like I've got a Verizon Fios modem. I believe it uses WPA2. Like what do I do? Like what's the fix?
I mean,
do I
you
switch
can,
the
you can switch
subscription?
it. Yeah, you
Okay.
can switch it from
That's
WPA2.
The bulk of the questions in the chat is
Yeah.
what specific devices are vulnerable.
I think it's basically
anything that
anything
uses
that
a WPA2
yeah.
connection.
So if you have, as Alfred just said, if you have a router or something that runs on WPA2, switch it. You can change it around.
that's like a pretty simple fix,
Yeah.
and stay away from websites that don't have HTTPS, which
Right.
you should always do anyway. But at this point,
CNET, fortunately, is a HTTPS
as
website.
of like what, like 3 months ago.
Like
Nice plug.
Yeah. Just saying.
So what you're saying is potentially anything. There's really nothing that's kind of whitelisted on this. It could be a router. It could be Philips Hue.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I'm just going through the list of some of the contributions from the chat right now. My Matt Thatcher says, does KRACK affect all WPA2, including enterprise installations that use 802.1x authentication?
I'll have to look into that. I mean, like this broke around like 5 a.m. this morning, and there's still a lot of details emerging from this.
And does this actually can it affect a mobile hotspot on a phone? Asks Donna.
Yeah. I mean, if it's running on WPA2 encryption, potentially,
Yep.
yeah.
So the general consensus is, am I screwed? It's like,
Yeah,
actually,
you kind of are.
The headline isn't just clickbait.
Yeah, it's not clickbait at all. We're not trying to be inflammatory. Like, this is legit terrible.
Yeah, the idea behind the whole like issue, like, so there's monitoring your content, and if you're on a website that doesn't have HTTP, you could enter your password in, and then they'd be able to just snatch that out of like the Wi-Fi.
Right.
But there's also the issue of like injecting content. So let's say you go to Google.com, but you're on like a network like this. They can kind of send you a website that looks like it's Google, and then ask you to like log in and then get your password through that. There's like a lot of issues that come with this.
Okay.
Rob asks, how do I know if my router uses WPA2 and how do I switch?
You can go into your router settings for that. I mean, I believe it's different for every router. For mine, I put
Well, your router should have an IP address listed on
Yeah.
it somewhere in
Yeah.
the manual printed on the bottom. You
Should
can find
be
it
usually
there.
like if you have like I have my BIOS modem, the information is printed on a sticker
Yeah.
on the modem itself.
So then when
Right.
you set your Wi-Fi password, you can also set the types of encryption that you want
Yep.
it to have. Change it from WPA2, most likely would help fix that.
What is the alternative? Like what's the one?
There's like TLKPS and there's all this like
Yeah.
other stuff. It's not coming to me right now, but
Right.
there's a lot of options there.
Okay.
Michael Brown is asking, how can you tell if your Wi-Fi has been breached?
I mean, it's hard to tell. There's no like warning sign out there or anything like that. That's the issue of like Wi-Fi breaches, is that they're very, hidden, because your Wi-Fi doesn't know the difference. Like, it just thinks that someone else has connected to it.
So I mean, the best operating procedure then is just assume you've already been hacked and just change everything around.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
the most like to me, I don't think the average person is going to be targeted by this, but either way, you just want to keep yourself safe. Don't think that like people aren't going to be after you.
Right.
I guess.
Right.
Most of the times attackers look for something that's like the easiest thing to hit, and if you have a vulnerability like this,
Yep. And
Yeah.
I think that to your point about the subway access, like if you
Yeah.
see free public Wi-Fi, you should probably stay off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's
basically
just
stay
not
away
worth
from
it.
any like kind of like watering hole attacks. So a
Yeah.
lot of times attackers look for places where a lot of people will be and connect to the
Yeah,
Wi-Fi.
yeah,
like
yeah.
how, I don't know, is it alligators or lions that attack people at watering animals at watering holes?
Alligators.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
So yeah, yeah. Just-
Weird analogy you just
Yeah.
came up
It's
with.
called the watering hole attack.
Let's keep coming up on analogies. I was going to call it the Goldilocks syndrome. Like you say, no one is safe.
Yeah.
They think, they're not going to be after me. If the door's open.
Yeah, that's basically it. And I think it's really important to pay attention to these kind of breaches, or not breaches, but just like announcements of these vulnerabilities.
And patches, making sure
Yeah.
that your products are the latest security patches.
Because when you're a large business and you don't patch, that's what happened to Equifax, and that's why
Right.
half the country's social security numbers.
well, it was one guy's fault, according to
Yeah,
Equifax.
no,
It's just
yeah.
some dude,
yeah,
one poor schlub.
yeah. So in Equifax's case, they had it was the Apache server like flaw that was announced in March, and they didn't patch it, and then
And I think that's what
somebody
makes
abused it.
I
So
think that's what makes this scary is that there are going to be plenty of Equifaxes in this situation. There are going to be plenty of companies
Yeah.
who ignore.
this is way
these
easier to
vulnerabilities.
break into than the issue with Equifax.
Yeah.
So that's why obviously every person out there should patch their own systems, but
But we
even if
also have to hope that everyone else is
yeah,
as
the idea
vigilant
the
as
idea
you
is like
are.
even if you do everything right, you could still be breached because some like supermarket that you go to didn't
Yep.
update their stuff.
True. Full disclosure, I mean, I've used WPA2 at home for as long as I can remember,
Yeah.
and I didn't know about this until I came into work this morning, so I was like, crap.
I mean, to be fair,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
one really knew about it.
It's
This thing
kinda
broke
like-
this
No,
morning.
no,
so,
right. But I
yeah.
mean, if I had actually checked the headlines before I walked out the door this morning, it would have been a different story. But I mean, I don't even know off the top of my head what I'm going to switch to. But it's a
That's the
conversation
thing.
I need to
That's-
go
I
figure
think
out
a lot
right
of people
now.
don't-
Suddenly, we're suddenly all have to be Wi-Fi security
Yep.
experts.
Well,
It's
for
a
all the
world we
information,
built.
we're going to have a ton of coverage, FAQs, explainers, how-tos on how to make your networks a little bit more secure, how to defend yourself. So definitely check it all out, CNET.
Alfred, you may be getting some calls from me tonight.
Oh boy,
Frantic calls.
I'm actually
Alfred!
just gonna be on stream like the whole day. So-
You could just,
I
yeah.
should just like Skype the whole thing in of just like my panic attacks as I'm home, calling Alfred in tears.
My timer's on WPA2 also.
No. All right. I think that's as far as we can get right now. Like we said, it's still kind of early in
It
the
is. It's,
development.
a
on
lot
this.
of the stuff is still breaking. We're going to have plenty more to talk about the next few days.
We
Like, this
promise
is a
to
big
keep
deal.
you updated.
Yeah.
But thanks for tuning in. And Roger, you
Yeah.
want to send us out?
Yeah. As always, if you liked anything you saw or heard here, check us out on CNET. Our podcast is also available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Feedburner, and Google Play Music. We'll see you all tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Thanks,
See ya.
everyone.
Stay safe.